Hey everybody, it's been a while since I've done a one-take lesson video on this channel, but I wanted to bring it back for this recent song Picklet and mainly the technique, which essentially the whole song is based around. So a few years ago I stumbled upon a way to achieve a really efficient way to do a triplet, which is just quick downstroke, upstroke with the right hand, and then a hammer-on with the left. And for that, I have some capos on this, but the tab for that would just be 005, so you don't need a capo, you could do it a little bit lower. And it doesn't take very much energy to get these three notes, the two open and then one hammer on, so you can end up going really fast with it. So and it has kind of a cool country pickin' vibe, and it kind of sounds like, once you start playing riffs with it, just that type of twiddly playing sounded a lot like the Chicago math rock band Piglet. And so it made sense to me because it's a triplet with a lot of picks I just started referring to it in my head as a Picklet. And I think a good place to start with this would be the first riff of the song Picklet, or not the first riff, excuse me, the verse riff, which is, and again if you don't have a capo on, it's just that two opens to the 5th fret, and then on the A string, two opens to the 4th fret. And again, just triplets. And once you get into the swing of it, it's kind of cool and fun how quickly you can go with such minimal effort. And another thing I try to do with it is I try to get the first pick to be really loud. So I really kind of lay into the string. And then after I get the string, the pick will just rest on the next string. And then the upstroke is just from there. And it's a bit quieter. And then I try to hammer on pretty much as hard as I can. And that loud note, soft note, medium note kind of gives it this cool, I don't know, like country pickin' feel, like. And so of course a good place to start would just be to do it, really slow, probably to a metronome, just to get the triplet feel. And then continue to speed up. And then essentially the song Picklet is just entirely based around that little technique. That was a little bit slower. And the first few riffs I made with this, once I stumbled upon this little technique, were actually in the metal genre. If I got some distortion on, they were more like. And I haven't played those in a while, so that sounded horrible, but at the time, this is like 4 years ago that I started doing it, and I wasn't quite good enough at it to where the metal stuff really worked out. But maybe I'll do that in the future. I just haven't found somewhere to put that in. So let's get to the song Picklet, which is, once you have the Picklet triplet nailed, which will take a little bit of time, you can then move on to this song. And kind of unfortunately, the song takes up a lot of needed equipment, or you need a lot of different pieces of equipment to do the whole song. So I have two capos on here right now. I have a guitar with a whammy bar, and then also to do the solo you would need a looper. So there's a lot of equipment. I didn't plan it that way, but to start off, there's two capos, and you would need a partial capo to do the song, but you could apply the Picklet triplet technique thing to a lot of different things. But to start off, I got these capos from G7th. Hit me up. I don't know if you can see the logo. And they said, we have this partial capo, we would love to see what you would come up with it. And I said, cool, because a big part of what inspires me to play is like new instruments, or like new capos, new toys, or like tremolo bar, something to where it forces me to play a little bit differently. So they sent me these two, which have been great. They actually sent me a third one as well, like one for acoustic. But anyway, so I have just a regular capo on the 5th fret, and then I have the partial capo, which just does these three strings, just the D, G, and B. And so with them both here, I can get this D string, or D chord, excuse me, without fretting anything, which I thought was cool, because unlike, not detuning, but putting your guitar in a different tuning, when you do it this way, you can get an open chord, but the relationship between the strings is still the same, and I thought that was really interesting and not anything that I'd really worked with before. So just realized I could do that, and then threw in the Picklet thing. So to start off, the main riff is pretty fast, so you're going to want to start pretty slow, but it goes in, I guess you would call this the 9th position. We have the first finger on the 9th fret, and then the other fingers kind of just accompany those frets. So essentially each finger on your left hand is going to be assigned a certain fret, and that makes this even more efficient. So the pattern is, it starts on the, I'm going to go by what you're fretting on the left hand. Also, all the, if I'm being confusing, all the tab for the Guitar Pro version and just the regular tab are in the description. So that'll help you a lot, rather than me just shouting frets and numbers in that. I'm probably going to get some of them wrong. But I try to start off by thinking that each finger has a designated fret for this little part, starting at the 9th. And then, so the riffs we're going to be hammering on with this are going to start with the 10th fret here, or the 5th, depending on how you see it. I'm going to say 10th because that's less confusing for me. So we're going to go 10th fret here, then the 9th with the first finger, then the 11th, 3rd. Then we're going to stay on this G string for 2 notes, 9th to the 11th, 12th on the D, then 10, 9 on the A. Again, all in the description. So that's what you're going to be focusing on with your left hand. And then we're just going to throw in that Picklet technique, Picklet technique. And then it sounds like. And again, I really try with the right hand to really lay into that first note, to try to get that a bit more, that dynamic note on the first. Bum, 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 bum. And that's of course going to take some practice. I would recommend starting just with that verse riff, until you get that really down, and then move on to the first riff. The verse riff also just uses these 3rd chords and moves around, so. Sorry for that, but anyway, I'm getting a bit off track here. I'm going to start with the main riff, so just that pattern. And we're going to add the 2 open notes prior to it. Messed it up there a little bit. And another thing I try to do is, as soon as I get, right after I get those first 3 notes on the low E, I try to, as soon as I can, just roll my thumb over to mute it, because otherwise if you just leave it open, well, I messed that up quite a lot, but it's really easy for that low E to continue ringing out, and we don't want that, so you're gonna put your thumb over it. That was the last thing I did when I went to record it. I wrote it fairly quickly and then went to record it right away. And then when I listened back to the first recording I did, I realized that low E was ringing out through all those parts that I didn't want it to, and then I went ahead and recorded it again, but rolling my thumb over in that part, so. So it's kind of hard to play it slow. I'm so used to playing it at the regular speed now that it's a little bit confusing going back. It's kind of funny how muscle memory works in that way, that you'd think I'd still have it, but... Right, that part's not in the song. Getting sidetracked. So we're starting with that riff. And then your first finger ends up on this 9th fret on the A, and then you're just going to strum away with that open D in this here. And then you essentially repeat that 4 times, but changing it up a little bit each time, so. Another thing, after you strum those chords, I try my best to the last strum to be dead notes, just to stop the strings from, ringing out. Alright, I messed it up a little bit there, but you could see what I mean. And then the second time around, we're just gonna keep moving. When you're doing those open chords at the beginning riff, you're just gonna keep moving this first finger around this one string. In that one, you just bring it up, slide it up, and then you're gonna change the notes that you fret. And this one, when I recorded it, I just did it all with my second finger, which isn't the best way, and that's usually the part where I would mess up in this. And that's very similar to the beginning riff. You just change a few notes around. And you really should do it with all your fingers designated to different frets, but for whatever reason I just learned it the other way, and the main part that. And then you slide down from the 10th to the 2nd, and so on. So here's the first riff at kind of a lower speed. Oh, I'm gonna have to start the camera over again. Let's do that. Alright, this camera can only record for so long at a time, so I have to remember every now and then to start it over. So here's the whole beginning first riff, a little bit slower than regular speed. So those last chords, and that was all played very sloppy, by the way. So the last chord is just open, and then you slide from 9th, 7th, and then here's it a little bit faster. I'm playing this horribly right now. Into the verse riff, and the verse riff is very easy. At least for the first half, it's very easy, and it's just this one technique. And so you're going to be doing this, what I think of as a G chord shape, but it's not a G in this case. It's just a 10th and 9th, and just going back and forth between those two notes. And again, you're just using the picklet. And then you switch over to 12 and 10th. These are all just third chords, and you just kind of move around. Again, it's all in the tab, so. And then that's the first half of the verse riff, and it's played a little bit faster in the regular version. And it sounds like it's going at, a million miles per hour, but it's actually pretty calm, the amount of effort that you're putting into it, which is why I was so interested in this little technique to begin with. And then after that, we'll probably do the next part, and then I'll end the video here, and that it's already getting pretty long. So the next part, you're going to start with these. You have these chords, these thirds, and then the note on the A string, you got the octave, and you're going to bring that in with this picklet technique. So it starts off, and then you're going to strum all the strings, and it's just like continuing on with the same rhythm you're doing with your right hand, but you let all the other strings get in the way on the way to the G. So. And you just keep going up with those thirds. And then you end it with this one chord. You're thinking of this chord, which sounds, pretty bad, but it coupled with the open D can actually sound pretty cool. So when you're almost done with those measures where you're going up the thirds, you jump in on that note and then continue just this chord with the Picklet technique. And then the second time around, that lasts a little bit longer, with bringing the volume up and down. Alright, let's do the whole verse riff at a little bit slower speed. There it is. And then once you get that, it can be a lot of fun, because it seems like a lot to sound like a broken record, but with this it seems like a lot more going on than there actually is. Alright, screwing up all the time. And then it just goes back into the verse riff, and then there's quite a bit more after that. Let's see if there's any more notable parts. It's pretty much just the Picklet technique, just about the whole time. At one point I do bring in, instead of just using all open notes, I do some fretted notes on the low E. Something like that. I would have to play the whole song to remember exactly how it went, but then that's just, again, just leaving your first finger on there as you continue to do the same thing, and that's essentially the whole song. Later on in the song, you pull on the tremolo bar, which is fun. Yeah. Alright, and it's just like going through and just yanking it up. I've been trying to do that in more songs. Kind of sounds like back when people watched movies on a VCR. Every now and then, if the VCR was messed up, it would kind of sound like... So, kind of sounds like a VCR effect to me. And I think that's it. At least all I could offer in this video. I think a lot more, or the rest of the song you can find in the tab. And it's, yeah, essentially just the Picklet technique the whole time. I'm going to stop rambling in front of a camera. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.